Welcome to Hello Malaysia. I am your host Surati Sanusi, and today we are talking about Towards New Frontier in conjunction with International Day of Human Space Flight. So obviously, if we talk about space, we have to bring someone from the National Space Agency, and in the studio today I have Dr. Nordin Ahmad, the Director General of National Space Agency. Thank you for being here to talk about our topic for today.
Thank you for inviting me.
Right. So before we talk about the theme, let's talk about you a little bit. So how long have you been with the National Space Agency?
I joined the National Space Agency since 2010. Before that, I was with the consulting companies. And prior to that, I was a lecturer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you all have always been interested in space?
Well, since my research in my PhD was in space as well, so I did applied it during my studies as well as during my work.
Right.
Hence, I think it's just the right institution for me to be. At
What
the
makes you be
Agency.
interested in space? Because I like space as well. What will be your reason?
Well, when I first involved in space, it's because space, when people say rocket science, you know,
Right.
when they say rocket science, something that difficult to achieve.
Okay.
It makes me, very much
Proud
to be one of those who are involved in this area.
Right.
Yeah.
So this has been started since you were small, or
Well, when I
started?
took my degree in an area called geomatics, basically you're studying the Earth.
Right.
But one of the techniques to study the Earth is through satellites.
Okay.
So then I take my interest of looking to more details about what is specifically in the satellite, how it works and everything that relates to that.
If I want to talk about me, why I was so interested in space, it all starts with astronomy.
Okay.
Okay, and then when I started looking at the stars and how they look at it as the Leo and all this, so that became my interest, and that I started to go into studying on space, but using my encyclopedia, but that was also interesting enough. So that really caught my eye. And I think for you, was it part of the interest as well?
I mean, when people ask me how it started with you involving in space, it started almost the same line as It was because at that time I was really astonished by this few of these people who can calculate the prayers time from the from the moon and from the sun for the whatever occasion that we have. So this make me a puzzle. I mean, how does all these things around us can be relate to our daily lives?
And be calculated as well.
Be calculated as well.
Right.
Yeah. So and that's actually astronomy is one area that's quite significant as well in space science. Yeah.
Okay. Now talking about space and in conjunction with International Day of Human Space Flight, can we know a little bit on this history? How come there's this day, it's called International Day of Human Spaceflight, which is celebrated every year, correct me if I'm wrong, 12th April every year?
12th April, yeah.
Okay, why is that there, this day?
Okay, it's just to commemorate the first flight taken by human into space.
Right.
Which is by, of course, most people know Yuri Gagarin. Okay, he did his flight on the 12th of April, 1967, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and after that, in 2011, the United Nations start to recognize all the effort that have been done on research, especially in the space, bring back a lot of benefits to the humankind.
Okay.
So thus, in commemorating the event, 12th April, the day that Yuri Gagarin was launched to the space, is taken as an International Day of Human Space Flight.
Okay, and this has been celebrated since what year?
2011.
2011. So quite new, quite recent.
Actually, of course, the event has taken
long time
ago, but since United Nations announced it in the General Assembly that this day should be celebrated by the whole world in the General Assembly on the 2011.
Right. Yeah. And do you think that we have achieved so much since we sent the first guy, not to say on the space, but also to the moon?
Well, the term human space flights mean we are sending human, and it's a big risk to have a human
on
space and in an area that is very foreign to us. Okay, so I think we have achieved a lot, because it's not only sending the human is considered a big achievement, but whatever we done or we have
with experiments,
carry out our experiments up in the space, we have benefited a lot from that, from probably the human pampers, I mean, or
diapers.
Diapers, sorry, yeah, not the brand name. Okay, the diapers, to so many other things that the equipment that we use without the cables and all these. These are all part of the things that we have achieved through our experiments, through our dealing, through our experience that we have up in the space.
Right, and I know Angkasa or National Space Agency was built because we want to send someone out to space, and we did. We sent Dr. Sheikh Muzaffar out there, and what have we achieved? I mean, Malaysian, what have we achieved by sending Dato there?
Okay, first of all, the sending of the Dato Sheikh at a particular time was quite a short period. We only managed to send him about 10 days or so. That experiment that was carried out wasn't that extensive. However, we did manage, when he came back, of course, the first thing that we do is to call the awareness, the things that they have experienced, to get people interested, especially in the students on the science and technology. We managed to do programs until today. Probably about 4 million people have listened to him.
And still listening to him.
Of course, yes. We still bring him around, and he worked together in trying to promote, hand in hand. But the experiment, there are few interesting experiments that came out, and some of them have been able to be patented. One experiment that is, quite risky, that before that have not been taken or have not been done is on the cancer. That is, even the Russian who provide us the opportunity to launch or to send our astronauts wasn't sure whether that is cure enough. We are worried that the cancer cells may fly inside the space station. But we managed to send. But within a short period, we learned about the different behavior of the cancer cells.
But who decided what experiment should we send up there to do the experiment?
Well, Angkasa did invite all the researchers from universities, and they proposed what they want to do, and from there we selected a few, and we have researchers from Malaysia, UKM, UITM, and a few more experiments. I think 6 experiments were carried out. And until now, some experiments are still being carried out by our researchers together with internationals. So these are some achievements that we have done, even though with a short period, but we have learned a lot from there, and from there we continue. Some of our works are still continuing, and we hope that we are able to have the next opportunity of sending the experiment out.
You were saying that the cancer behaved differently out in space. Could you give us a little bit detail what was happening with the cancer cells up there?
Well, as I said, the period was so short, so probably the scientists from UKM may not be able to
achieve the results
explicitly. However, the behavior was documented. The papers and the journals are presented. He presented in conferences and all the things that he have found during the experiment, and this give hopes to probably pharmaceutical to look into
to create
some forms of medicine or whatever that can help in, especially in this dangerous type of
cell. Okay, and besides cancer, I know there's a few more experiments that were brought up into the space shuttle.
There's one. Of course, they are the easiest. Some of the easiest one was by Mardi, who tried to get some of the food prepared for the astronauts, but at the same time they try to see whether the astronaut have a different taste or feelings when you are in different environment.
When you're floating up in space, would you have different taste?
Well, it doesn't work that way. Of course, you still have the same taste, the same appetite without changing it. So, but at least we know that these are the things that probably because our body is having a different environment in the space.
Would they behave differently?
Yeah, even because the pressure is also different. I mean, when I speak or when Datuk Sheikh present to the people, he always says that when I'm there, I feel that I'm a little bit
expanded.
Yeah. Mainly because there's no gravity, so you are moving, just floating around and everything. So over here we are pulled by the gravity, so we have to walk on the ground.
Right.
But other experiment, as I said, there is things that we also have to see the body, our body. How does our body really reacts to this environment
without gravity?
Without gravity.
Right.
So whether we can sustain it, or whether our body will act differently.
Right.
So, and this is continued after even Datuk Sheikh came down.
Right.
We continued the research with IBMP, this institution in Russia. We did participate with them on one of the program called Mars 500.
Okay.
Mars 500 is basically a program, a simulated program.
Okay.
Because if you want to go to Mars, it takes you 520 days.
Whew. Okay, that's 1.5 years. Okay.
Yeah, around that.
1.5 years. Okay.
And so they isolate few volunteers.
Okay.
Inside there.
Right.
Right. So, but it's a real capsule, except that it doesn't fly.
Yeah, it's a simulation.
Simulation.
Right.
So we participate by seeing that, how does
the body reacts.
Basically, with a different environment and with inside the capsule that you have to work with, and very restricted and limited areas. So our researchers from UITM especially work closely. They went there to see the behavior, to get the blood samples and all those things. So this is one of the experiments that was carried out during Datuk Sheikh's assignment to the space. But at the same time, it was continued in the ground through our relationship with the Russian researchers.
Because I know when you are up in space for such and such period, your muscle starts to deteriorate.
You're right,
The bone density starts to deteriorate as well. So probably that should be considered if we want to send someone to Mars. Probably. And I think to me, the biggest achievement by sending Datuk Sheikh to space is when our national Islamic made the fatwa on to pray in the space, right? I think that was, to me, was interesting. How do you pray in the space? How do you and I think when he went there, it was towards the end of Ramadan, so he needs to know when to berbuka puasa and when to start fasting. I think that was, to me, that was also an achievement for the Islamic community.
For those who may want to see all the documentation that we have, basically we prepared a booklet for him to guide him to be up in the space.
Right.
We still have of course not booklet, but we make it a big posters up in our office in planetarium basically. It was translated to about 120 languages.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
We worked together with JAKIM and also other Islamic institutions and scholars in order to, as you said, achieve the fatwa.
Right.
Because you remember that he is rotating, or the space shuttle, not space shuttle, it's called space station.
Okay, ISS.
ISS. It's rotating about 16 times a day.
Right.
So if you want to pray, you won't have time.
Yeah.
You won't have time. By the time you finish one prayer, you have to pray another one.
Right,
So that's how things are something new in the Islamic world, as you said. Although before this, there are few Muslims who have been flying, astronauts have been flying Muslim astronauts. But this is the first time that we have a documented guideline on how to pray, how to do whatever activities up there Islamically.
And in your opinion, was that interesting to actually have that being considered part of? To me, that is also an experiment.
It is very interesting because even our scholars have to start to think, okay, the scientific way how things work in order for them to, before they can become a fatwa, they have to know how things work up there. What is actually happening, and how can where to face for his prayers, and this sort of thing. These are things that make people really interested in whatever have happened.
And talking about the fatwa, how long does it take for them to actually come up with a booklet and decide that, okay, this is what we should do when we send someone into outer space?
Well, it takes quite a while, mainly because first of all, as I said, we need to educate the scholars, the Islamic scholars.
Right.
Okay, what happened up there, how it is the situation up there, and for example, we have very much limited water.
Space, right.
Okay, space
Right.
is one of the area, and then you will be floating. Okay, unless you tie yourself to the
Right,
seat,
right.
otherwise you'll be floating around. And then another one is because, as I said, it is rotating 16, 14, 16 times
A day.
and so you see 16 times
The sun rise and sets.
Okay, and while seeing the sun rise, in few minutes you see the sunset.
Right.
Okay, so this is how to get the scholars
To
start
think.
to view
Right.
what's happening up there. Then they have to go back and start to see something that they can hook on, or something that they can get some references. Yeah,
right.
because it's not.
This
not
is something new.
Totally
right?
new.
Right.
Totally new.
And
But
this is not going to be the last time we're sending a Muslim out to space, you know.
this is just happening that is going to go around the
right.
our Earth.
We're not talking about the moon.
We're not talking yet.
Or the Mars.
Yeah. So this
Right.
is a really new challenge for even our scholars.
Right. I think it's for the human race as well.
Sure,
Okay,
of course.
we need to go for a short break, and when we come back, we'll talk more on this matter right here on Hello Malaysia.
My precious little Nita, why did you leave me? How hard I try, my pain does not go away. My child has become a victim because of me.
Pakcik, boleh saya tolong?
We cannot change the past, but we can protect our future if we act now.
Current issues, latest headlines, illuminating visuals. Everything right and now on Bernama News.
Halo, apa kabar pemirsa? Salam dari Jakarta. Sebuah program kerjasama Kantor Berita Indonesia Antara dengan Kantor Berita Malaysia bernama kembali hadir menjumpai Anda.
And welcome back to Hello Malaysia with me, Sue, and Dr. Nordin Ahmad, the Director General of National Space Agency, or ANKASA, because we want to talk about International Day of Human Space Flight. Now, we know what ANKASA does, but in depth, we don't really know. So probably you can tell us what ANKASA's history and the services that they provide.
ANKASA started with a section in the Prime Minister Department, Baksa is called, Bahagian Kajian Sains Angkasa, around early 90s. And then the focus at that time was to look more into the astronomy. And that's where in 1994 we have the planetarium. So now planetarium is about 20 years old.
Okay.
Yeah. because it is a place that we can have people to come in and learn about what is astronomy all about. That's why if you go to a planetarium now, you find that basically split into two segments. One is where the astronomy, the history of astronomy in the world. Another one, of course, is the new generation of space, one of the human space flight, but like rockets, satellites is over there.
Right.
But anyway, back to the history. After we have the planetarium in 1994, then at that time was focusing on awareness, education, and astronomy. So we find that, I mean, the country find that, especially undertone, we have to venture into the satellites, the rockets.
Right.
Then in I think in 1997, okay, we have the opportunity at that time. Miasat was launched.
Yes.
Okay, and then so the country would like to build their own capacity. So we have set Angkasa, okay, the National Space Agency. So around 2002.
Right.
So now we are about 13 years old, 12 years old. So, and the purpose of Angkasa mainly to have the to build the capacity of the national capacity. If you look at the mission and vision, to one of course is to harness the knowledge, the space as a generation of knowledge. But at the same time, we are looking at, it is not just knowledge that we it end up with knowledge. Everything have to go further than knowledge. So in our mission, basically try to see whether space could be a new area for generating new economy for the country. So this is a challenge for Angkasa actually. So since 2002 until today, we already built our facilities. We have 3 offices or campus, we call it. If you are looking into the astronomy, trying to sight the moon, the sun, the planets, the comets, we have a good facility in Langkawi. Okay, international standards is placed in an area called Bukit Malut. Okay, it's right in the middle of the jungle. Because we need the situation. Because in order for us to have a good astronomy, we need the environment to be really dark. Because otherwise, with bright light, it will spoil the sky.
We call it light pollution.
You are right. Yeah, light pollution. Then we have, of course, as I mentioned earlier, that we have planetarium. The focus is on education, basically awareness, place where people come and understand. So we are having a few events there every year for the schools, for the public, for the universities, in order to gather the people interests. Okay, and one of the things that we are focusing that for people to interested in the science, technology, engineering, and maths. What the nation is focusing as well, STEM. Then, of course, as I mentioned earlier, that we have to build our capacity in building satellites, rockets, everything. So we have that facility now in Banting. So over there, we have a big labs, a few labs especially, and facilities for our assembly, integration, and testing of satellites. And also some of the research on the application of satellites. So these are the 3 offices that we have, and that's how we work. We have about 120 people working, working in the 3 campuses, and the main researchers. Mainly they are researchers and engineers actually. So most of them are placed in Banting, but some of the researchers are also in Langkawi as well here in planetarium.
And we also have a clip on all the facilities and the telescope that we have at Angkasa. So let's take a look at the clip right now. Right, we just saw an interesting clip on Angkasa, especially on the telescope. What is the telescope all about?
Okay, that telescope basically is the, of course, the telescope everyone knows that is to view
whatever the space, stars and planets.
The one that we have, the facilities, is a big telescope, about 20 inches in diameter. Previously we have the largest, but now we have, there's an observatory in Negeri Sembilan, we have larger than us.
Okay.
They have a latest.
Right.
But anyway, we have 3 group of telescope that I can, one is basically to sight whatever at night.
Okay.
Whether it's going to be the stars, the planets, or the moons. And we have a lot of good images of all these things. Then we also have the one that we have to sight the sun. This one we have to put a filter, otherwise you burn your eye.
Okay.
And also we have facilities or telescope that is fast enough to catch, for example, the comet.
Right.
Yeah, because comet come in just
very fast.
So you have to, basically the telescope have to move together with
faster.
it. Yeah.
Right.
In order to follow the comet.
Okay.
Yeah. So these are the 3 facilities that we have in Angkasa.
Right.
So and of course we use it mainly for our researchers and universities, lecturers and their students will go overnight, stay there and have study whatever they would like to study. Yeah.
Right.
And then on top of that, of course, you see there are also services that we provide to basically the industries and also to those who are doing works that related to space. Although those facilities are meant for building satellites, but it can be used for other purposes as well.
Such as?
For example, shakers. You know, before a rocket, you know, the satellite have the worst experience 1 or 2 minutes before it's launched.
Right.
Because that's where the things start to ignite.
Right.
And the whole rocket is shaking. And you have to stay, I mean, as a human, you have to stay a few kilometers away because it gives you very loud sound. Okay, noise. We have that facilities to simulate the situation. Okay, for example, the shake. We have a shaker. I mean, but not only the satellite will be shaking, even our car. So you can even test your car and try to shake it. Of course, it's not the same as shaking the satellites.
Right.
And we have the facilities, for example, that to see whether your equipment will be intercept by other electrical or other electronics equipment. So we have all these facilities that are available that we can use and test your facilities up in our
services.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And as a Malaysian, have we, created something, or have we achieved something that no one in the rest of the world has created?
Okay, first of all, the services that we have, or the facilities that we are providing, this is the first in South Asia. Okay, of course, our neighboring countries are starting to build up the same thing, but we are the first having that facilities here, and we are inviting people from not only from locals but also from international around our areas who want to use the facilities to be using our facilities. So in that case, we are the first in that sense.
In the area.
So we are quite exposed. By having all this equipment, we are exposed to technology. So in that sense, we are looked by most advanced countries, by one of the nations that possible to be top in terms of space technology in this region.
Right.
So otherwise, most of the things are still, at the beginning. Yeah. Okay. And we put a target in our space policy that will be independent. Of all of the we'll call it things what we have now
for
health
have.
Basically by 2025.
Really?
10 years from
soon.
now.
That is very soon.
It is very soon, but taking into consideration that the experience that China, India again, China says that it took them 50 years to learn
the
technology, and now they are of course one of the top producer of satellites and rockets. The US take longer than that, but they are of course they are the pioneer as well. But we cannot be following the same track.
Okay.
And that's why we have to cut down some of the time.
Right. But do we have expertise now? Cutting down the time, we need expertise.
Right.
Do we have enough experts, especially on space and rockets and satellites?
So what we have, one of our area of focus now is to have to develop more applications, which is what I say the low-lying fruits.
Okay.
Easier.
Right.
You may be using your GPS on your handphone, which is, so we hope that there are a few companies around that can have the GPS chips easily carry out. But in terms of the upstream, especially on the rocket and satellite, it is really challenging, and that's why we put 10 years. And now we are having the opportunity. The past 2 satellites that we built our own at that time, Tiong-sat and Razak-sat, have given some of our engineers the exposure, and we hope that we are able to sustain with a few more satellites before 2025, so that our people are prepared to be independent.
Right. Okay, we need to go for another short break, and when we come back, we'll talk more on human spaceflight right here on Hello Malaysia.
Batasan masa, mengupas isu semasa, jadi saluran pelbagai suara, segalanya baru dan benar di Berita Bernama TV.
Welcome back to Hello Malaysia with me, Sue, and Dr. Nordin, the Director General of National Space Agency, or Angkasa. And right before, when we were on a break, we were talking about, sending people there, sending people up to space, and us being Malaysian, we want to generate income right in space. And I was talking about, okay, there is a person working up there already in the ISS. So I want to know what ISS is all about. Why is there only Russian having ISS? Why can't, like you said, China is developing really rapidly with their technology. Why can't they have their own ISS, and any part like the United States should have their own ISS as well? So why is it there's only one ISS there?
Okay, yeah, there's only one ISS up in the space currently with about 300 to 400 kilometers. Just not so far
from the Earth,
from the surface of the Earth. Although it's only one ISS, but there are 16 countries that help to contribute to develop the whole systems.
Okay.
You have the Russian component, okay, and then in the middle is where, of course, the American and Russian, they don't sleep together.
Okay.
So then you have
at one end we have the Russian, with the other end we have the Americans. Okay.
And then after that, we also have the Japanese coming up.
Okay.
So the Japanese, of course, the Japanese are close to the American. So they link to the Japanese module is called Kibo. Okay. Linked to the American component as well. So the Japanese have their lab as well, so they can also put their people there.
Right.
And apart from that, there are other facilities. For example, the arms that they use to work up in the space without by control. Robotic arms that is made from Canada.
Okay.
I think a few more other countries have contributed to some.
So this is going to be growing as years going to pass by.
No, it has a lifetime.
Okay.
Okay. it is, I think, not second 2023 or around that time.
Right.
They will have to build another one because
Right.
the things, I think, it's been there for quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
The Chinese have a different idea. Why would we be able? Why should we go and always
Contribute to the ISS?
Why don't you have a new one?
Build a new one.
They have built
Yeah.
a new one called
Right.
Tiangong.
Right.
Okay, they have launched it. It works, of course, it's a model,
Mm-hmm.
and they also have sent human to
An astronaut.
They call it taikonaut.
Okay.
Okay, because the American call it astronauts.
Right.
The Russian
They're
call it cosmonauts. and
We
now
call
they
it angkasawan.
Angkasawan. They call it taikonauts.
Okay.
And
Taiko.
taikonaut. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. I'm not sure in Chinese what the taiko means for.
Taiko means big brother, I think. Taiko?
That's Malay understanding. I'm not too sure about Chinese.
Right. Okay. So you're saying.
Yeah. So, but they have sent people there. So
Okay.
now it's just for them to build up this proper stations.
Okay.
But this is not something impossible nowadays. I mean, the richest.
Man on
rich,
Earth.
well, I'm not call it rich man on earth. Probably Bill Gates. I'm not too sure. But
Okay.
people like
one of the richest men on
Sir,
earth,
Richard Branson, of course, have already tried to send at least some test vehicles.
Right.
But this is not the only one. There are a few more, but it's not probably mentioned much in the media.
Right.
But there are other proposals already. Instead of ISS, the Japanese are proposing hotels up there.
Hotels. Okay.
Okay. So, I mean, you can take Sir Richard Branson's vehicle and go
Right.
to the Japanese hotels up there.
And stay up there
And stay
for
up there
about
for a few
2-3 days.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's not too expensive. I think it's about a few 100,000.
One go.
One go.
But I like the way you say it's not impossible.
It's
It is
not possible.
possible.
It's possible.
So by saying that, it's not impossible for us to do that as well, Malaysians.
Of course, but Malaysia, we are putting a different priority. Yeah, so that's one of priority that we have now is just to continue our effort from the Angkasawan programs that we have after sending Datuk Sheikh and the experiments. Now we are trying to think of what are the experiment that we should send in order to continue with the efforts. So the human spaceflight, the human part is important.
Right.
But the more important part is called the experiments.
Okay.
Because the human is there just to help to work out and how to manage the experiments. So we are thinking that possibly, even with some restriction, because they are long queue. Now the American doesn't send their own rocket or their own shuttle anymore. They have
Okay.
stopped the program.
Okay.
So everybody have to go through the Russian rockets or Russian. So the Russian usually they send 2 person, another one is for others.
Right.
And there will be a long queue.
Right.
Okay.
And other countries are also
Other countries.
waiting.
So thus the opportunities to go or to send our next Angkasawan may be quite far from now.
Right.
Thus, but the main thing that they still have, we still have the opportunity to send experiments.
Right.
So we can send experiment anytime.
And how many times would the Russian, I mean, in your knowledge, how many times would they send rocket up into space in a year?
Well, the astronaut will stay mainly from 3 months to 6 months.
Okay. In
Yeah.
ISS.
In ISS.
Okay.
So depends. Sometimes they send after 3 months they send another replacement of people. Okay. Sometimes people stay there. They just a few coming back.
Right.
But these are the program that they have. But in terms of experiments, you don't have to send it with the people.
Okay.
For example, our experience is that one of the program we have the crystallization
Yes.
of the.
A cell. Or
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah.
So we have done with the Japanese, with JAXA, Japanese Space Agency, crystallization of proteins. Sorry,
Yes.
yeah. We have sent them. We have sent to the space 3 times, all without human.
Right.
Okay. So because the Japanese can send it and it can dock at the ISS.
Right.
Okay, without having to have a driver or pilot
Okay.
going with that. Okay.
Right.
So that is the opportunity that we have now. So we can.
But
prepare
who would oversee the
Of
experiment?
course,
The cosmonauts.
For example, when we send ours, the Japanese send their astronauts over there. So we have to deal with the Japanese and tell what experiment to be done and
I
sort of
see.
thing.
So these are the cooperation between the countries?
Yeah, we now have with the Americans, with the Russians, and with the Japanese. We have a lot of cooperation with them in order for them to help us in achieving our objective of trying to carry out experiment in the outer space.
Okay.
Yeah.
And besides the ISS, you were talking about the Chinese.
Yeah.
I'm not
It's
sure.
called Tiangong.
Tiangong.
Well, it's just ISS, but
Okay.
I'm not too sure whether I pronounce it rightly. But Tiangong is another ISS.
Right.
I think scheduled to be
Completed.
occupied.
Right.
No, they have said they have completed.
Right.
To occupied by human
Okay.
soon. So because usually the Chinese, they don't basically tell what their plans.
Yes.
You only know probably
Right.
1 month or 2 months from the time they will tell that, or from the schedule, what time, okay, by next month we will send people. So
Right.
we're not too sure when they will occupy their space station,
Right.
but they have successfully developed the space station,
Right.
and then it was a big one, a reasonable one. So most likely, they also invited us, I mean Malaysia, to send our experiment through them
I see.
to their space station.
Right. By saying this, I remember a scene from Armageddon
Okay.
where we have that cosmonauts kept saying that American components, Russian components, everything made in Taiwan. So it's true. Like the ISS is made out of every parts of the
About
country.
16 countries
Took part with the
part
ISS.
in different way. Some may
They
have
contribute
certain
with the
yeah, you're
arm,
right,
like
you're
you
right,
mentioned.
you're
Okay,
right.
we have to go for another short break, and when we come back, we'll talk more on human space right here on Hello Malaysia.
Together, let's treasure our mangrove.
Bicara isu semasa. Merangkumi segenap ruang. Semuanya dalam ruang bicara secara langsung Isnin hingga Jumaat hanya di Bernama TV.
Current issues, latest headlines, illuminating visuals. Everything right and now on Bernama News.
And thank you so much for tuning in to Hello Malaysia. And we're talking about International Day of Human Space Flight. And before we went for a break, we were talking about what ISS, and we want to send, we're trying to churn economic industry in outer space. And my question is that, are we going to send another Angkasawan in the future?
This is a very popular question.
Of course.
Okay, even in the parliaments, and the country has put a lot of efforts trying to have our economy based on space, and sending an Angkasawan is just one of the mechanism. So with the permitted economic situation, I think we will be sending. But the priority now is to have more human capacity, human capability, capital to be built by the country in order to ensure that we are able to carry out the experiments up in the ISS, and also to have the succession planning of what to be done once the experiment is brought down in order to churn the economy.
Right.
So this is a challenging part.
Right.
So
we have to find the right person to send up there with the right experiment.
They have it takes them about a year to be trained in order to get the license to become an astronaut.
Right.
Okay. I heard that in US it be maybe longer. Okay. The one that we have in Russia is only 1 year, and that's considered minimum for them to be trained to be a person that are able to carry out experiment up in the space. Thus, it's a challenging phase for anybody who is going to become astronaut.
Right.
However, we are not saying that it is not important to have the person, because the human touch is important, and to have the human personal experience to tell is important. But again, the priority of the country is to have the experiment, more and more experiment to be carried out, and that's one of the things that we are doing it now as well. Without the opportunities of having sending astronauts up there, we still continue with several experiments with the help of other countries. So as we have done with Japanese recently, we have what we call space seeds, where we send seeds. Chili seed actually. Not the plant, the seeds.
The seeds.
Put it up in the space, and when they brought back, we give to the schools to get the children to be excited, trying to get the seeds which is brought up to the space, and they plant it and compare to the peers which is not sent to the space. All right. And then now, this year, we're given by the Japanese opportunity to try the herbs. Okay. So these are things still continually, because these are an area that biotechnology is one of the strengths of Malaysia. So we're trying to see how we can utilize the research that we are going to send to the space to generate economy
for Malaysia. Okay. Now, with regards to the International Day of Human Space Flight, is Angkasa doing anything for the event? Any events are coming up for the day?
We don't have a specific event because mainly we have several events throughout the year. Just to inform that beside the International Day for the Human Space Flight, we have a bigger one which is called World Space Week. World Space Week is also an event that is proposed by United Nations to be celebrated around the world. It's celebrated from the 4th to the 10th of October every year.
In October,
mainly, the 4th is when the first satellites are launched, Sputnik 1. The 4th. And the 10th of October is when the Outer Space Treaty is signed by most part of the countries in the world. So that's why they say from the 4th to the 10th. So that is that's a bigger event, and in fact in that event also we do make an announcement about this International Day for the Human Space Flight. So but specifically we do more on awareness about the importance of the human space flight instead of celebrating as just a single day. So throughout
so this is going to happen throughout the year. So any events, they can go to the website and check it out.
www.angkasa.gov.my.
We are almost to the end of the program. Dr. Nordin, I'm giving the floor to you. What would you like to say to the Malaysians, especially on the International Day of Human Space Flight?
I think Malaysia have come to the stage that we are becoming an advanced country, so involving in this space technology, and one of them is by sending experiments to the space is one of the way of how Malaysia should lift up their expectation of the world to see Malaysia as a leading country in this region, especially in order to show that Malaysia is also going to become one of the developed nations that is involved in space.
So we hope that everybody gets their interest in space or get them excited about
especially
space.
The school kids. We're inviting them to planetarium. Let's see what they have over there and probably enjoy it as well.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Nordin, for being with us.
Much.
And thank you so much for tuning in to Hello Malaysia. And until we meet again real soon, I'm Surati Sanusi. Goodbye.